Hello.
Hey, y'all.
Welcome to Book Witches with a B, episode 3
Episode 3 of this book, yeah.
of this book. I'm Orja,
I'm Colleen.
and we are coming to you live after those disastrous tornadoes that swept through.
St. Louis, yes.
Yeah,
we are fine. I was
fine.
thinking that we should post something about that earlier.
Yeah.
We didn't. We're
We
fine.
did not. I don't have internet. We lost power
sure.
for 24 hours, and our internet is still not on. But other than that, a huge tree limb fell in our yard, but, luckily didn't hit anything.
I got a little bit of hail. I got a minor injury on my foot from said hail trying to move my car into the garage. That was a little bit of chaos.
Yeah.
Outside of that, everything has been perfectly normal in my neck of the woods, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, stay safe out there, everyone. Just emergency preparedness is important.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to be talking about chapters 7 through 9 of Blood Over Brighthaven today, and it's a doozy.
Buckle up. I know we say that every time, but truly this section is a big... Everything just kind of zooms from here. Like, the book has a little bit of build in the earlier chapters kind of thing, and we're kind of... And then basically our final chapter is kind of the start of the cresting of going up.
We're going to leave you on a cliffhanger this time.
Unless you read the book.
Unless you read the book.
And then you can read it on your own now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's head over to Deep Dive Discussion.
Deep dive.
Chapter 7. I have been a goddess. I know you will think me silly, but I'm a pious lady of good manners, and I must tell the truth. I have been a goddess, but I am a pious lady of good manners, and I know that in this house there is only space for one God. I am a pious lady of good manners. I will not stay in someone's house where I am not wanted. Irma Mordra, to Sirith Mordra, 319 of Tiran. Chapter 7, Webweaver. Sciona and Tamil continue to work together, with the rest of the mages ignoring her and leaving her to her research. She notes that while Renthorn's spell web would be better than hers, her mapping would be clearer and more accurate than his, so Sciona decides that she must first draft the best spell web she can. Drafting her spell web has taken a full week longer than she had hoped for, but just as she's putting her finishing touches on her draft, a large boom interrupts and shakes the building, causing her windows to be shattered. Tamil, who had been sent for an errand, bursts into the room to check on Sciona. However, she's fine, as well as her spellograph, and the clock counting down to Farron's Eve. Call out from last week's episode. Could not remember the name of this festival.
I knew it was something with an F. I was close.
Fire Fright.
Yeah, I was close. I think I combined this and Akatar together.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's Farron's Feast.
Farron's Feast.
Is like the day of. Farron's Eve is the day before, which is the deadline.
Got you.
Yeah. Tamil suggests that they check on the other mages, and Haloros's lab has been blown up due to a sourcing spell gone wrong. Renthorn joins Sciona at the spellograph to inspect what spell went wrong, and Sciona realizes that the spellograph, make and model, is one that's usually only rarely available or by special order. Tamil suggests that they evacuate the building to make sure everything is safe, to which Renthorn is really racist, I just wrote.
That's a running theme.
It's a running theme.
Yeah.
And they all leave. Renthorn is cleared to go back to his offices, his labs, but Sciona, Jaren Mordra, and Tanril's offices are badly damaged. Tanril and Mordra decide to join Renthorn, as that is an inevitability anyhow, in addition to Haloros. Sciona decides not to join Renthorn's team despite the invitation and the others goading, and tells the crowd that she's going to get supplies to replace what has been broken, calling Tamil to go with her. Instead, Sciona turns towards her old buildings, Brigham's buildings. She discusses how Renthorn is now a bigger threat to her success, as he now has access to 4 High Mages' research and theories. Tamil asks Sciona why she would not want to pool her skill with others if the goal were to help her city and her people, calling Sciona out on her selfish ambition. Sciona tells him that the barrier expansion is her project, it's her duty to win and have her name on the work. She informs him that men have been taking credit for their wives' or female assistants' work for centuries, so it's important to her that she get the credit for her work. She gets the glory for it. She does have a moment of self-awareness where she's like, maybe I shouldn't have said glory, but that's what she's after.
I at least appreciate a woman who is upfront about what she wants, and she is very much that way.
She is.
Yeah. I also don't think striving for glory is a negative. I think in her society, culturally, it is. But
It
in
is,
general,
yeah, I
don't
wouldn't
think
say
it's bad.
so. Yeah. Sciona suggests, she goes on to suggest that the spellograph that Halaros was working on was cursed and sent to Halaros by Renthorn, though it is forbidden. We find out that Paramus, a member of the city council, is actually Siona's father, and that her father abandoned her with Aunt Winnie when her mother died, never to be a part of her life again, and that is her driving force for her ambition.
Same. Would be same.
Would be same, yeah.
My father did not abandon me, but that would be my driving force.
I agree.
Yeah.
As they're walking to Bringham's lab, Sciona declares that Tamil must learn how to do magic. Number 8. Chapter 8. Number 8.
The big chapter.
The big chapter. Oh,
This is a big boy.
Rune Reader. I will not fear evil, for where I go, God's light goes also. In the presence of God, I will not turn my gaze, though light burn me. For light will show the truth of the world, and all the world's truth is of Farron the Father. The Leonid, Meditations, verse 5, 2 of Tiran. 2 months in, and Tamil has been able to make a conduit by copying Siona's spells. He's picking up magic very quickly, and she's disappointingly very surprised.
Yeah.
On the other hand, Siona's mapping spells have not gotten any clearer, and she's hit a dead end. Tamil and Sciona discuss how to make the mapping clearer, and Tamil starts to use his experience from hunting in the Quenlands to offer suggestions, saying things like, it's easier to spot a deer in a plain field of snow than a white hare because of the contrast in the difference in the colors. It is then that Sciona realizes that Tamil lived outside of Tiran, and we find out he's been there for 10 years. So it's been 10 years since the first chapter. Tamil and Sciona debate the rules written by Farron, like the 4 sacred rules about sourcing magic, and Tamil's argument is that they were not given by God, and so Sciona can work around them with a sound mind, as she's a Leonite. She doesn't
follow strictly the rules of Farron.
Yes, yeah. Sciona runs to get books on sourcing that have to do with old sourcing from before the rules were set in place by Farron, and Tamil reveals that the runes used by the Tiranish, he recognizes them. Tamil tells Sciona about his brother-in-law's people, the Venholt and Draste, and Sciona wonders, sorry if I butchered that, and Sciona wonders if the runes they use are in fact of the same people. She says Leon received his visions of Tiran and the path towards making it in the Venhold mountain range, where Aras's people are from. Sciona makes some really ignorant and racist claims about the Quen people not being able to hold on to their history and culture, while Tamil points out that Blight didn't start until 5 years after Leon supposedly had his visions of the future. And I have an excerpt. There's a lot to unpack here.
I have some thoughts. We will get into the deep dive about that particular section, but yes.
Tamil didn't seem convinced. You said that your Leon received his inspiration in the year 10 pre-Tiran, ma'am? Yes. Blight didn't start until year 5 pre-Tiran, Tamil said, after Leon saw fit to take magical knowledge from its rightful home. We Quen have a word for that, taking ancestral items from people who aren't dead. It's called stealing. For a moment, Sciona was too scandalized to speak. When she did, her hands were in fists. She doesn't take that well.
She doesn't take a lot of things well. I'm gonna be honest.
Sciona argues back that Leon was a great man and mage, not a thief, and the very reason that they're still alive and well now. Tamil pushes back, pointing out that the visions were received before Blight and there might be something uncouth, but ultimately backs down. Sciona is disquieted by Tamil backing down, though she knows he clearly thinks he's right, so she pushes him to be plain about his beliefs. And we are going to talk about this more as well. Mm-hmm. But he explains kind of the difference, his beliefs versus hers. Is there something wrong with Tiranish God? She demanded. For you, ma'am, no. It's always good for a woman to worship the gods of her foremothers. Your God suits you as he suits the city. He just wouldn't suit you? No, ma'am, Tamil said. He would not. Why? Another sigh. If you must know, your God weighs souls differently from mine, or in other terms, your people and mine have different senses of right and wrong. And she's like, what do you mean? And at first he's like, it's gonna be hard for you to understand. To which she takes great offense.
She's like, I'm not stupid.
Yeah, she's like, excuse me, I am very intelligent. Tell me. And so he goes on to explain that according to his gods, it's not the intention of a man, but the actual actions and consequences that determines his goodness. What effect have they had in their lives? Even if they were well-intentioned, if they leave the world having made others' lives worse, how can they be good? On the other hand, if they were selfish or cruel or their actions were made purely in self-interest, if it makes the lives around them better, how can they be bad? The word for the potential of goodness, we learn, or also literally a riverbed or ravine, is called vakul, which is what the Tirish god judges souls based upon, whereas the Quen gods do not care for it. They don't care about the potential for goodness you have. They care about what good you've actually done. Sciona finally decides that enough is enough and slams her hand on the table, making Tummel flinch and draw back to the quiet janitor-turned-assistant he had been 3 months before. And I have another excerpt. This chapter is really long, and it's really hard to summarize, and I think that these are important because we will talk about them.
Yeah, they're very important in terms of their relationship in understanding both Sciona and the Quen culture.
Yeah. Tummel didn't have the status or protections of a regular assistant. Sciona could have him fired with a word, and he would go back to scrubbing floors, or worse. The uncomfortable reality was that if she wanted, she could do much, much worse, have him imprisoned, possibly even killed, with one lie about his conduct. The mage spoke a thing, and it was so, truth be damned. Neither of them acknowledged the power difference while they worked, but it was always there, and Sciona had used it to win their argument, which wasn't really winning at all, was it? No, Sciona, it was not.
Was not. She does also in that section, which we can get into, but she talks about how she likes the power of it. She's like, there is like an intoxicating element into it of the power that she's like, I don't usually have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, we definitely have to talk about that. Sciona does feel regret for putting Tummel down and finally tells him that she wants him to be open and honest, even if it's not always respectful of her beliefs and culture and work. Tummel finally tells Sciona what Maedra means, woman mage or sorceress, what the bartender called her. It turns out all magic practitioners in Quen were women, not men. He notes that Tirish texts call them witches. And I have another excerpt. Ha! For most of the old Quen, magic was an art of protection practiced by those with a deep connection to the home and community. Those people were usually women who spent long hours tanning hides and stitching clothing, listening to their elders, surrounded by knowledge and love. Men in the Quen have always spent most seasons hunting. So deep magic isn't something they ever had the time to perfect at the highest levels. Some hunters practiced small magic they learned from their mothers, and a man who couldn't hunt due to illness or injury might develop quite advanced magic. But the really powerful magic users, the high mages of the Quen, were well-studied women raised by women, like you. Sciona argues that the Maedra could not have been so powerful as only 5 mages were able to take out thousands of hordes at the basin. Tummel says that according to Quen texts, the mages were said to have wielded a strange and evil magic, but relents that Sciona is the expert on magic, and she agrees firmly, and is like, our magic is not evil. Sciona sends Tummel home early that evening, having to think on everything they've discussed and the implications. Which brings us to Chapter 9. Woo! I say that magic is hope. Those who are called Tiranish must ever pursue truth, for through the light of truth, any man may achieve greatness in God's eyes. The Leonid, Meditations, verse 30, 2 of Tiran. And then Chapter 9, Witches Well. Sciona can't sleep, despite being back home in her comfortable bed rather than on her cot at the lab. She keeps thinking over everything Tummel has told her. She gets up early and decides to go back to the university, telling Aunt Winnie that it's because of the windows. What little histories written about women and witches in their books claim that witches were opening windows, and Sciona wonders if it was in fact an early method for mapping. Aunt Winnie tells Sciona not to speak blasphemy lest she incur any curses so close to Farron's feast, but Sciona assures her that she's perfectly safe and leaves. Sciona decides to read High Mage Jorowin's texts, one of the only High Mages to risk blight and go out to the Quen to map the territories before it became illegal. This is very interesting stuff. I would most vehemently contest my colleagues' condemnation of Quen magics as dark and sinister. Those are air quotes. While there are surely sinister elements to this little-known art, so too are there sinister uses for any trade or tool. In my travels, I have come to know the Quen magic practitioner, a humble woman busy among the herbs and candles of her warren, keeping the home, caring for the sick, and protecting her family. Sciona keeps reading, and she becomes more and more sure that the women mages of Quen used to use mapping spells to open clear windows into the world, to look upon their loved ones while they were out hunting, and possibly other realms as well. Also, High Mage Jorowin seems like to really kind of like applaud the Quen women and their magic.
Yep. And
he's like, people like dismiss him as crazy. We find out that one of the founding mages, founding mage Androthin Stravos, the one who created the barrier around Tiran, was actually part Quen. We learned that Androthin was a sickly child, likely not a hunter, so he likely stayed home with his mother and learned magic from her. Sciona is scouring the stacks for books on Stravos, realizing that no scholar or mage in the last century or longer has tried to adapt his spells, as they are arcane and lengthy for no reason, quotes again. While she's looking, she's interrupted by Renthorn and Tanrel, realizing that she's been up and reading for 2 full days. She's like delirious.
Just casual.
In speaking with the other mages, Sciona realizes that she already has the books she needs in her lab and laughs at herself, causing the others to worry that she's not well. She rushes back to her lab to make some tea and begin mapping. By the time Tommo comes in, Sciona is crying and staring at her spellograph coil. She has managed to open a window to the other realm with clarity that hasn't been achieved yet, using a combination of Stravos and Kador technique. She thanks Tommo for opening her eyes to the missing link, and then tells him that she's going to do as they discussed, and remove the Fane-ordained lines clouding the picture. She's already calling it the Freynan mirror, which I love.
Casual.
It's hilarious. She activates the spell, and it's worked. The image is crystal clear and in color. I have one more excerpt, and it's going to bring our discussion to a close.
This is a dun-dun-dun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The other realm wasn't a sea of floating lanterns or a garden of never-before-seen colors, as some texts speculated. It was a rolling expanse of snow, breached in places by evergreen bushes and cut through with animal tracks. Sciona had only ever seen snow at a great distance on the peaks of the Venhold Mountains. She hadn't realized that up close it would catch the light of the moon and sparkle like alchemical diamond dust. An unfamiliar creature bounded from the cover of one bush to the next, and Farron be praised. The image was so clear, Sciona could have counted the hairs on its bushy tail. Tommo has gone still, and he asks why the other realm looks so much like Quen, which Siona's like, really? Because she's never seen it.
Yeah,
she never left
no
Tiran.
knowledge of it, yeah.
He asks her to siphon, and Sciona does, confused by his reaction. Releasing Tommo's strangely rigid arm, she put her hands to the Harlan 11, targeted a dense evergreen bush, and hit the siphoning key. The bush lit up bright white, beautiful godly flame, and then unraveled like a ball of yarn thrown to the wind, leaves of the fine splinters spiraling outward. Sciona had opened her mouth to exclaim in wonder when, crash! The image vanished as Tommo hurled the spellograph from the desk. It smashed into the nearest bookcase and broke, screws and keys scattered in all directions. She asks him what's wrong, and he points a trembling finger at the spellograph, and he informs her, that is blight.
Ah!
The end!
Ah! That's it!
Ah!
Yeah.
So, that brings us to the end of the chapter recap.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a lot to discuss.
We do have a lot to discuss.
Before we get to more serious matters,
Yes.
let's do section superlatives.
Yeah.
Section superlatives.
Boop, boop, boop.
Drama queen. We can't keep saying Sciona, but really, there's no one else.
She is... Something that I love and hate about her as a character is she is herself, which I love. She is very much herself. She is, for someone who is so logical, she is so emotional. She's so emotional.
She is.
Incredibly emotional.
She only reacts emotionally to anything.
Correct. And she's like, I am the studied, logical. And you're like, no, ma'am.
Mm-mm.
No, ma'am. You were not.
Highly emotional.
You would fit in most sorority houses I've known of. Like, you are not.
Yeah. Like, once she calms down, she'll think through things logically.
Yeah.
But, like, her first reaction's always super emotional.
Yes, which is fine
Mm-hmm.
if she would address and realize that's what's happening. Because emotions aren't negative.
No.
But
We all have them.
always reacting emotional is negative.
It is.
Bless her soul.
Sometimes you gotta use your brain.
Yeah, the thing that she loves.
Mm-hmm.
The brain. Use it.
Her favorite thing.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. There's also just not a lot of other characters besides her and Tamil.
Yeah.
Especially in this section. It's mostly
Yeah.
their interactions, and Tamil is never the drama
He is
queen.
never the drama queen.
He threw the thing. That's
That?
such a valid reaction. It's
Yeah,
not dramatic at all.
It's not dramatic.
I would have chucked it too.
Yeah.
If I would have realized what he did, which, yeah, we'll get into later. But,
Okay, and then craziest thing to happen.
so in theory, I think you want to say blight.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I already knew that was kind of coming. I don't think they're very transparent about kind of what that is supposed to be. I think that's the point, is like, it's kind of veiled, but really, if
But
you
not
looked
really.
deep enough,
Yeah.
you could see it kind of thing. Personally, it was finding out that her father was, in fact, alive
Yeah.
and just actively pretended like she didn't exist.
Right, just like
And
that's
was also
such a
in
throwaway
the High
line.
Magistrate.
I know.
And it's like kind of, it's involved in here, and it comes up again later, but not nearly as much as I was, like, that floored me. The first time I read it, I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. I also, so when I was reading this for the first time, I texted her when I was on page like 26, and I was like, the blight is the magic. I
Yeah.
was like, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And she was like, it is, there's more to it, but like, yeah. And I was like, okay.
There is a lot more.
There is
Yeah.
a lot more to it. So I agree that it's not like the craziest thing to happen. Her father, that's a good one. But I also, I guess like I want to say the fact that the founder, one of the founding mages of Tiran,
Oh, was Quinn.
is half Quen.
Yeah.
And she even says, "Oh yeah, Androthin Stravos, the copper-haired founder of,
Oh, yeah.
creator of the barrier." I was like, "Wait,
You're like, what? The following line of that kind of baffled me, that I was just like, oh my gosh, was he, as to not pass on his inferior genes, he did not have any children.
Yeah,
Like, they essentially prevented him. The person who created the barrier, that they all state created the barrier,
yeah,
didn't have kids.
didn't have kids,
Which was fine, except for their reasoning behind it was
not
because
pass
he
on
was
the inferior genes.
the inferior genes of the Quinn.
Yeah, like absolutely smashing wild.
I was just like, which I like, again, this is my second full read through of this book. Didn't catch the first time.
Yeah,
Really clearly made me mad the second time.
No.
It's been 3 days since I read that line. I have not let it go in my mind. So,
absolutely wild.
yeah.
Okay,
Nice.
I think we can go to Colleen's corner now.
Yay! Okay, Colleen's Corner.
Colleen's corner.
So we're going to go over something that I think recently has come up a lot more and is kind of like used as like a pop culture buzzy word sometimes, especially with social issues. But it's a very relevant word for this section. It is called cognitive dissonance.
Yay!
So I pulled up the exact definition because I wanted to make sure, because like my definition I think is a little bit different than this. I wanted to make sure I pulled up the official definition. Cognitive dissonance is a term for the state of discomfort felt when two or more modes of thought contradict each other. The clashing cognition may include ideas, beliefs, or knowledge that one has behaved a certain way. So, particularly when Sciona and Tamil are having their discussions about religion and culture and like even just her interactions with him. So this is common amongst people who hold incredibly racist ideas, who meet a person of color, or someone of the opposite gender, depending if it's really sexist, but usually it comes more into play when it's racism. And they're like, oh, they're not anything that I thought. And this is what Sciona does. So there's a cognitive dissonance in their brain. They have these deeply held beliefs that this vast amount of people, they're dumb, they can't take care of themselves, just various options depending. And then they meet someone and they're like, oh, well, you're different than what I think. And they say, well, actually, that doesn't break down my rules. So to justify their cognitive dissonance, what they do is, well, my rules in my mind are still correct. You're just the exception to the rule. Which is where the whole, like, why I personally don't like the phrase of, well, I have a black friend. Or, like, I have an Indian friend. Or just something various, like, along those lines. You usually hear it more in context of a black friend. But when people are like, oh, well, that gives me a pass to behave this way, or I know everything about black culture because I have a black friend. No, you don't. You were not raised as a person of color. You were not raised as a black person. But there's this, like, dissonance in their brain. And I'm not saying that everyone who says that is racist. There's a difference. But I'm just saying, like, things like that will come up. I mean, it is not a great phrase to say. Please don't say it. But it's difficult when you are someone that is raised with a certain set of ideals and you're around someone else that has something very different culturally to you and you have a set view of their culture and suddenly you're like, oh, I was taught wrong, but your brain does not want to accept that fact. This is actually like a psychological brain thing. It doesn't want to accept that fact. It is science, interestingly. So Sciona does a lot of this. Like, she very much thinks Tommel is the exception to the general Quinn rule. She's like, oh my gosh, you're so smart. You picked up magic so fast. She's like, you can actually read?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh yeah, like my previous bots taught me that. And she was like, oh wow, that's so impressive. And he's just like, huh? Like, we're not stupid. They just hold different values.
They also, he kind of goes into, like, they pass down, they have a lot of, like, oral history.
Oral traditions.
Yeah. And so he's like, you know, reading's not important to us because we have other ways of spreading knowledge. And
which also, there is clearly a written language because he recognized the Quinn runes.
Yeah. Like,
he's like, I may not exactly, you can tell he was like, it's not exactly in the language that I grew up reading or seeing or whatever, but he's like, but I can decipher it well enough to know that this is kind of what it's saying. And she's just like, oh, well, and like, she just cannot comprehend these things. And so she says almost more racist things to Tommel to justify the things that she built her personality on. This is the issue, personally, that I think so I am a religious person, and religion is incredibly important, but I think and it should be the basis of your morals if it is something that you hold. But I think there can be, when you grew up in a religion specifically that has very set rules. So, like, if you're someone who grew up in, like, I'm not saying she's necessarily in a cult, but I think it could be, technically, in sociology, a religion is a cult, regardless. Like, doesn't matter what religion you're in, it's considered a cult. But some that have more, like, pop culturally cult-like behavior, where they have, like, certain ways that you have to dress and very specific ways that you have to behave, it's really hard for you to break out of those cycles, which is why Sciona is struggling, because that's what she built her life on, what she built her career on, what she built everything on. Like, she's not only actively participating, she's actively working within her religious structure. And so when you start learning and unraveling, or deconstructing, as some people like to say, those beliefs, it can be really difficult to manage because you're like, I spent my whole life building up to this thing, and you're trying to tell me that the thing that I hold most dear and most valued to my life is wrong. You're gonna balk immediately. Like, there's not a single person on the planet that's not gonna balk.
No.
Does not give Sciona a pass for her bad behavior, but it's understandable, if that makes sense. So I put some, like, specific notes on this, so I'm gonna look at those.
Yeah, I think, like, leaning into that, like, she even kind of, like, argues with Tommel when she's like, you don't believe in our God? And he's like, well, no. And she's like, but you cut your hair. And he's like, do you know how difficult it is to get a job in this city if I don't look like this?
Yeah, he's like, it's not because, and also I think there's the structure of that, like, she's not fully understanding that, like, she views the Quinn as a monolith. They're not a monolith. They are vastly varied, judging by... So, like, I think to him it wasn't... He's like, I maybe would rather have my hair long, but it's not like a blight on myself or my religion if I cut my hair. He even says that. He's like, oh, yeah, like, town over, they have different gods. I have my gods. It's just kind of how it works. And she's just like, what do you mean?
What do you mean?
Yeah, the concept of, having a monolith of them is interesting to her. This will get interesting. Okay, so I wrote down, Sciona, and I think this is the part that struck me the most maybe about her, and that, like, you kind of continue seeing, and this is kind of a discourse that I've heard for a while. Sciona considers herself an intelligent, progressive person within her society. She views herself.
She does.
She would very much consider herself a liberal in the context of her life and herself and where she's going. And she struggles with this. And in her mind, that's not struggling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she does and she doesn't. She's getting there.
Yeah.
Like, she understands that she wants him to interact. And she even, like, in her mind, I don't think she thinks she's treating him that poorly or that differently.
She does not think so.
She's just like, well, I'm treating you way better than the other people that talk to you, so clearly I'm doing better. That kind of leads into that in our culture happens significantly. I have heard a lot of racial activists and different people that I've seen where they talk about that they often struggle more with white liberal people who think that they're progressive and have these progressive ideals than they do with, like, people who are outright racist, because they're like, I can at least deal with the outright racist.
Yeah.
They know that they're doing it. It's both suck, but they're like, it is so much harder. Like, it's almost easier to get someone who is outright racist to see their wrongs than it is for someone who thinks they're progressive.
Yeah.
To see their wrongs. And, like, specifically when they pride themselves on being that progressive person, it is significantly harder for them to, like, admit that, like, they might be a little racist. Fun fact, everyone's a little racist, regardless of your race.
Yeah.
That's just human nature. It really is. Like, there's a whole thing.
It
There's
is.
always a bias that you're going to have about another culture.
Yes. It is up to us to realize that and like,
push past them.
Yeah.
But you have to be aware that you have your own biases. Because if you assume that you do not have any biases, it's going to come out.
You're wrong.
Correct. Well, it is. Like, there's a lot of tests if you really want to take them. I think most people are typically aware of where their biases land somewhat. If you really want to know, put yourself in a situation. Do you feel uncomfortable around a certain group of people? There's your bias.
Correct.
It's a really easy way to figure it out.
Yep.
Some of it could also just be cultural differences. There's can be
It
differences.
is different if you're uncomfortable because you don't know how, because you're not a part of the culture and you don't know how to.
Versus, like, being afraid of the person.
Yes.
Yes.
Correct.
So, anywho, so we're going to see a lot more of that, but I think this is the first really, and you're seeing, especially with Sciona, which is kind of where I got into, where she's like, I felt power
Yes.
in knowing that I could ruin him. And it scared her a little bit.
It
To a
did.
degree, to the point that she is a good enough person. She is not a bad person.
She's not evil.
She's not an evil
Or
person.
malicious.
She's kind of a bad person.
She's not great.
She's a racist person.
Yes.
Which is a hard thing to deal with. But she is at least one that I think is attempting to improve herself. Slowly. She's getting there. But,
Yeah.
like, she's like, I felt that rush of power. And she's like, it's never something I've never felt before. And she's like, I could say anything about him, and they would vastly believe me over him, which is how a lot of lynchings happened throughout, particularly American history. I'm sure in other contexts, but I know mostly about American history. I literally just got done reading a book that was about this, so it's a little bit front of mind for me. But there's so much... This is probably the only relationship in Siona's life where she feels like she has the power
Yes.
over someone else, and you can tell.
Oh, yeah.
Like, she used it, and she even said it. She's like, I used it to win an argument. And she goes, I really didn't win, but I did to a degree,
But I
because she's
did.
like, he immediately cowered back. And she goes, I hated that. Because she's like, she's at least aware enough that she knows what that feels like.
Yeah.
That she's like, I don't want to do that to another person.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Which is good. Yeah. Again, she's not, like, evil.
No.
She's not great. But we talked about this a little bit in past episodes. She does have immense character growth over the course of the book.
She does.
It's just at a very realistic pace.
She has a lot of character growth, and she's not perfect, even by the end. Like, that's not even necessarily a spoiler. She just isn't. Like, this book is incredibly realistic in the way that it deals with people and their social interactions and their biases and the way that they function and the way that they even if they're attempting to grow, how they navigate and grow through it.
It is so realistic.
It's a bit painful.
It is painful.
It's painful. It is. But in a good way. Like, in a way that, like, forces me, to really reflect on my character and how I interact and view with people, not even just of other races or cultures, but even, like, within my own family, which we get into more later in the book. But there's just a lot of dynamics, even in this section where she's, like, with
Aunt Winnie.
Aunt Winnie, and she's just like, oh, she's so silly.
Yeah.
And,
meanwhile, Aunt Winnie is, like, cares deeply for Sciona and just wants what's best for her.
Yeah, and, like, loves
is, like,
her.
doing it in the best way she knows how. Yeah, she loves her.
And she's just like, love, ew.
Yeah.
Which, like, I understand if you don't fully connect maybe in the same ways, and that maybe love to you is a slightly foreign concept, because there are people that are that way, and I do think that it is that way for Sciona. I don't think it's something that she really fully understands. Doesn't give you the right to be dismissive and mean about it. So, anywho.
No.
I dog on Sciona a lot, but I do think she's interesting.
Such an incredible character.
Yes.
Like, to just have this character just, like, be the way she is and go through things in a fantasy setting that are so real and relevant to
modern day.
Yeah.
I kind of forget it's a fantasy setting. Like, I know they're doing magic, and I know but again, I studied sociology, so the social things for me jump out so fast.
Yeah.
More than any of the magic stuff for me.
Also, like, and I know I've talked about this before too, but, like, the magic system is just coding.
Yeah, it's very technical.
So technical and logical, it doesn't even feel like magic.
No, and I don't really even know if it is, almost.
Yeah.
Like, I guess it is, because it's like...
It's magic, but...
It's zapping a life. It's zapping a life force.
Yeah.
Zapping away a life force, which we've learned in this section. But it is so... It's not like a...
It's like a transference of energy. It's the magic is so scientific.
It's science magic.
Yeah.
This book is a kind of like almost it like rides the line of like fantasy and sci-fi, which is steampunk, which is kind of what it's set in. That's kind of what that rides that line of.
I would agree. That's great.
Yeah,
I love that. I think there's a lot of we're definitely going to have a lot more cognitive dissonance to discuss as we go forward.
So much worse in that department. But it is something maybe to keep in mind in your own life, and also to put a label on if it's something you're feeling, because that helps me.
Yeah, especially like in such a low stakes world, is like if you're feeling that while reading this book.
Yes, it can kind of help you grow and move through that.
Yeah.
So Anyhow, there we go.
Yay. That brings Colleen's Corner to an end. Let me take a sip of my ginormous glass of wine.
My parents were here, and they were like, "Oh yeah, like we have some wine for Orja," and I came out with one of the biggest bottles of wine I've ever seen.
It's huge. It's one of those like 2-liter bottles.
It is. It's from, and I was like, they went to Costco, so it's just
it checks out.
Yeah.
Shout out to Costco. Costco wine selection is chef's kiss.
Their alcohol selection in general,
really good.
It is good. Their vodka kind of sucks though.
Their whiskey does not.
Their whiskey is good.
It's so good.
Their whiskey is very good.
Yeah.
Their vodka, real bad.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of whiskey, something that we do have coming up if we ever get around to it. Yeah. Barrel House, calling you out.
Hey.
Steven from Barrel House.
You were great.
We are going to have to try to decide what book to read as we make our own book, which is with the B whiskey.
I'm sure we can find some sort of whiskey book.
It's going to be amazing. We have to. It's got to be a whiskey romance, though.
Honestly, if we find a Scottish romance, I'm sure it's a distiller.
That
I'm sure.
I was also thinking, like, I know that it's book witches, but I feel like we could do, like, a Hallmark movie because I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure. But we should do books. We'll stick with books.
We can figure it out. We've talked about doing movies.
We have talked about doing movies.
Which I do think if any of the books we do have movies, we should watch them.
Oh, we should watch them. Yeah.
So far, we have not had that.
No.
We haven't done any that have movie adaptations, but I'm sure we will at some point.
Yeah. Okay. All right, cool. I guess let's go to deep dive discussion.
Deep dive
discussion.
I love how we have theme songs, but we make up our own. They're never consistent.
No, they shouldn't be. We're too creative.
We're too fun. Oh, we're too creative and wistful.
Yeah.
Never once said about me in my life. I'm not a wistful person.
I don't know. Am I a wistful person?
Yes.
Okay.
You are. Not necessarily in a bad way, but
thanks.
But you were more of the like Woo! And I'm just kind of back here, trotting along.
I don't know why I even asked you that question. When I just actually thought about it, it was very clear to me that I'm a wistful person.
When I was younger, I had a little more head on the clouds, but I got real practical as I got older.
Yeah,
but
I refuse. I will not. I will continue being wistful forever.
that's fair. My wistfulness is in what I read.
That's fair.
What I read and what I watch. Like, I love wistful books, and, like, in my head, I write really wistful things, but in my actual life, like, I work in payroll for a reason. I like a very regimented, organized
Why do
job.
I work in payroll?
I don't know.
We'll figure it out. So one thing I wanted to kind of bring up, I started rewatching and have recently finished Anne with an E on Netflix.
I love Anne of Green Gables. I have not seen Anne with an E.
You should watch it. It is beautiful, and like the feeling is like, it's just like it's so beautiful. It's like a lovely show. And the guy who plays Gilbert is so cute. I just want to pinch his little cheeks.
The original Gilbert Blythe. If you know anything about me, not that any of you probably follow me on Instagram, but if you're my personal friend and follow me on Instagram, you know I frequently share.
Yes.
Specifically Gilbert Blythe from the Anne of Green Gables movies. That is my dream man.
He's everyone's dream man. He's wonderful.
Like, he is my ultimate fictional crush.
Yeah.
He is my favorite person.
He's incredible. But with Anne with an E, it's a Netflix show, and it is like a Canadian Netflix show.
Yes, which is great.
Because it's set in Canada.
It's set in, the Prince Edward Island.
And they just, because it's Netflix, I like don't quite remember how woke Anne of Green Gables is, because I read it in elementary school.
I've not read the books. I mean, the movies are relatively progressive.
Yeah, they're like pretty woke.
Yeah, by comparison.
By comparison, yeah. But they have like all of these. So Gilbert Blythe goes off and he meets Bash, his Trinidadian friend that he brings back to.
Okay, that is not in the original movies.
So that's what I'm saying. Like,
I think
they like really woke it up.
They did, yes. Okay.
But they also do this thing in the third season, which they discontinued it after the third season, which is the worst, because Anne and Gilbert finally kiss at the end, and it makes me mad.
Well,
then it ended.
You just have to watch the movies with me.
I do, yeah.
Have you seen them? Have you talked about this?
I have not seen the movies. I've read all of the books, but I read them in elementary school, so I don't remember it very well. I remember
what I read on
loving
the plane.
it, but yeah.
Yeah.
But in the third season, they like try to address like the education camps for the Native Canadians.
Oh, which is real rough.
And they have Anne be. Anne is a very sweet, open-hearted, open-minded girl.
Yeah.
I love Anne.
I also love Anne.
She was definitely a role model for me growing up.
That is fair.
It makes a lot of sense when you look at who I am.
It does. Yes.
So,
I loved Diana, which I feel like
also makes a lot of sense. Oh my God, we're kindred spirits.
Look at us.
Bosom friends.
Bosom friends. I did want to be Anne, and as a kid, I was Anne. But when I got older in life, definitely turned into a Diana.
I'm still Anne. But so they do this where they introduce it, and Anne is just like faces everything with an open heart and an open mind and compassion and empathy.
Yeah.
But they have like a scene where Marilla and Matthew are trying to basically, Anne makes friends with an Indian girl, and she is taken away, and the parents come to Anne because they're like, you're our daughter's friend, our daughter likes you, please help us, she was taken by force, please help us get her. And Marilla is like, get the savages off the land. I'm sorry, I am just quoting the show.
Yeah.
And she's like, don't talk to the savages, like, get the savages off our land. Matthew is like looking at Anne and sees that she's in distress, and it's not because of them, it's because of what they're talking about. Wow. And they have this whole cognitive dissonance happening in the show. And because I just watched it the entire time that we were talking about it, I was like, Anne with an E. Anyways, highly recommend the show. I think they do as best as they can, given the setting and the time period of the show, to kind of address and be like, this was wrong, this is how we should be, sort of thing.
Should be navigating
They don't do enough to address their horrible history, but they try.
That is Canada as a whole.
Yeah.
I'm going to be real. Canada, we love you.
Canada.
Like, I know we treated our natives badly. What the heck?
Yeah.
Y'all really took the case. Like, y'all try to pretend that y'all didn't do that one.
Wait, did you know that Canada is also the reason for a lot of, like, the Geneva War?
Yes, they're awful in wartime.
They're really bad.
They're like, I mean, they're very rule-abiding, which I appreciate. But if there's not technically a rule...
Oh, will they push it?
Yes. Canada,
we got our eyes on you.
we see you. We know you're not as nice as you pretend.
Yeah.
We know.
We know.
We know. Also, I'll be in you in, like, 2 days.
Amazing.
I'll be in Montreal.
Great. Anyways, I just wanted to bring that up because, like, I love that show and I highly recommend it. And
Yeah.
let's please watch Anne of Green Gables. That sounds wonderful.
It is... Oh, so, weirdly enough, maybe my 2 favorite movie franchises is The Fast and the Furious and then Anne of Green Gables.
Those are so different.
But there is a...
They could not be more opposite.
They could not be more opposite, but both of them are about really strong found family bonds.
Yes.
Which I love.
Yes.
And I need to read more of. I like found family tropes a lot. But they both have that sense of, like, family core bonds that lead into really deep, interesting relationships.
Do you want to do an Anne of Green Gables segment?
We should.
We should.
I love Anne of Green Gables. I love those
too.
movies. I've never read the books.
I read them when I was
list.
in, like, 1st and 2nd grade, so we should read them for the podcast.
I would love to.
That would be so fun.
If you can't tell how much I love these books, the movies, I adore them. It's what I watched growing up a lot of. So anywho,
back to Blood Over Brighthaven. After that little detour, I wanted to talk about something a little lighter because this is a lot of heavy stuff.
This book is heavy.
It's heavy.
Yeah.
Dude, like, literally everything. We
All
find
of it.
out so much.
Yeah, we haven't even touched the, like, big bad, which we don't have to just yet. But, like, we find out a lot about, like, Quinn culture, which is the thing that, again, from, like, a me standpoint that I thought was so interesting. Mm-hmm. I also love how Sciona is basically just the entire British government saying that that's why they took everything and put it in the British Museum.
Yes. Oh, don't get me started.
That's the moment that she was like, but they couldn't handle it, so we had to take it and preserve it for them.
Tom
And I was like,
there were extenuating circumstances.
the entirety of the British gorgeous museum.
Yeah.
There's a reason.
Biggest diamond in the world from India. Stolen.
Yeah.
Stolen.
Correct.
Stolen. Okay, anyways.
We have some clearly deep-hated feelings.
I love England, too, which is, like, the silliest thing.
Yeah.
But, like,
no, England is great. It's a country that I would love to live in. It's actually probably more
Well, no, I wanna
likely
do
Scotland
Scotland.
than England. The British people are great.
They are.
Tend to prefer... At least I watch a lot of British content in, like, YouTube and television
British
shows.
comedy is so good.
I tend to like the more northern.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you, I just don't understand posh people because I didn't grow up posh, so I'm just confused by all the rules.
I technically didn't grow up posh, but my mom has a very posh air around her.
That's kind of fair. I mean, I didn't necessarily pick up on that, but I can see it.
Sorry, I love you, Mommy. You're the best.
You can also just cut that out.
I'm not going to.
Okay.
I don't think she's watching this season.
Valid. That's fair. No, I love British content. Yeah, but anywho, you put a lot... I feel like most British people are aware.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They are.
They know.
They know what they did.
You know what you did.
But yeah, like, the whole crazy thing with, like, we find out that Leon was in the Venhold mountain range.
Yeah.
When they took the magic, and then you have the thing with Tomo being like, well, they said it was an evil magic. Well, so they clearly started the Blight. Mm-hmm. They found out how to siphon that's how they defeated the Hordes. They siphoned all of their lives and created the barrier.
Correct. And the Quinn people did not want to stoop to their level.
Yeah.
Essentially, they're like, that is an evil that we refuse to touch.
Yeah, that's why they didn't go with them.
So we will not do that. We will not. They rather would have perished than to give in to the killing.
I do wonder how it was lost. Probably just because too many people died. Mm-hmm. Honestly.
Well, and like it also seems like it wasn't every culture that had it, because it didn't really seem like Tommel's tribe necessarily had a phenomenal...
They didn't have magic.
They didn't really seem to have magic, so I'm assuming it was only certain... I'm gonna say tribes. That's what I know. I don't know that's really what
tribes, clans.
Maybe clans.
Maybe clans.
That's what they call them.
I don't know, yeah.
What do they call them?
They just call them people.
People. Tribes, clans.
The Venhold people.
However they identify themselves. It seemed like they were aware that they almost viewed it as like a talent.
Mm-hmm.
Like, some people had the gift, and some people didn't.
I also think that it's interesting that it's not even like a gift. It's spoken about like they learned it.
Yeah.
And even in Tiran, it's not like women don't have magic.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that you have to learn how to do. So like
That's true.
the magic exists inherently in the universe. You just have to learn how to utilize it.
How to utilize and navigate it. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
So like the Caldene maybe didn't utilize it.
Yeah, it's what they didn't need to.
Yeah.
Depending on, I'm assuming if you're a mountain culture, having that is probably different than, like, it sounds like maybe his was more of like a plains
I think so, yeah.
culture, which is definitely different.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm gathering.
I love the simplicity of her setting up these two opposing forces and just like they are the foil of one another. And I know it's a very like, it's not complex. It's not subtle. This is Tiran. They are killing people to power their world. They are oppressors, all of this stuff. These are the Quen. They have been oppressed. They would never stoop that low. And women were primarily magic practitioners, but they didn't. It wasn't mandated. It wasn't like men couldn't do it.
It
so
was
like,
just the nature of how it functioned for them.
Yeah, like I know that it's that way. It's that simple because it's to make a point.
Yes.
But I just love the simplicity of it.
Well, I do think it, sometimes in life, it is that simple.
It is.
Like, the whole, like, hunter-gatherer thing.
Yeah.
Women were only gatherers because the men just happened to be a little bit bigger. And also, sometimes the women did hunt.
Women did, yeah.
It just
was
depended.
Men, okay, I will say this. We all know what feminism is. I'm a feminist.
Yes,
We've talked about it.
We've talked about this.
Women and men are built differently.
Biologically, there are physical...
Yeah. So, like men
differences.
are bigger. They have more muscle mass. So
It's
they
easier
would
for them
be
to gain muscle.
better suited for hunting.
Correct.
Not to say that some women are not also suited for hunting.
There are also some women that just build muscle better naturally.
Yeah.
It was truly not even... I don't even think it was just like, men have to do this. It was just like, if you're real strong, go do that.
Yeah.
Regardless of gender. Like,
Yeah.
they were like, if you're someone who is good at, like, detail type things, which tends to be women.
Yeah.
I think some of that is social, but not always. Like, if you're someone who... If you can't hunt, go gather things. Like, they were just like, it was more of a collective element of we are all working to do something, and we're doing
rather than separation and oppression.
correct, which is where like more tribal cultures tend to be, and I think even back in the day, before we decided to industrialize and different things. But
Yeah. I just love how plainly it's all written out there.
Yeah, no, it's very. This author wanted to hit you over the head with it. They were like, I'm not going to be subtle about it. You are going to see it, and you're going to be confronted with it.
And for a book that addresses all of these issues, it's nice that she's just like, hey,
Yeah.
this is what it is.
Yeah, you don't have to think too hard about
No.
it. It's there for
It's
you.
like, this is what it is. Now you have to critically think about what you have read.
Yeah, and digest it. Yes. Yeah. And I mean, I guess it doesn't. It forced me to. I guess if you're someone who didn't want to, you can't really be forced to necessarily. I don't think they would finish this book if they were
Well, that's true.
someone that didn't want to. But yeah. Oh, the explosion.
Oh, the explosion.
Yeah.
So Sciona believes that Runthorn sabotaged, which I wouldn't put it past him.
Oh yeah. No, I have no doubt that he did, especially because the other gentleman, he's a very like skilled. Honestly, he seemed really nice.
He did.
The older guy, and he's just
Halaros.
He's just like, I'm so confused.
Yeah.
He's like, that's never happened to me. He's been doing magic for 10 years.
Yep.
Like, he's like, this is more than 10 years. He's been a mage, master, high mage,
Archmage. High mage.
one of the
Guys,
mages,
the system is confusing. There's a lot of mages.
magic user. He has been a magic user for a long time, and he's just like, what do you mean? I don't understand. It's like, this is not, like, he's never had it even close. It doesn't even seem like the spell he was working on pulled enough power to even justify an explosion.
No, there was a magic cap.
Oh, yeah.
And I still wouldn't put it past Renthorn to know that he was working on something with a magic cap and, like, write a curse into the spellograph so that when he activated it, that's what Sciona thinks happened.
It, like, overblew that cap, essentially, and caused an explosion.
Yeah.
To get his things that he wanted. What I find interesting about that, and, like, my thought is like, he could have just asked, and I think Halaros would have helped him.
I think so, too.
Like, instead of
I
asking...
think he was hoping So basically, what it comes down to is Sciona realizes, so her and Renthorn
Only ones, yeah.
worked with Brigham, and
Oh, yeah.
Brigham's favored spellograph make and model is that one.
Mm-hmm.
And Halaros, so basically what Renthorn decided was like either Halaros or Sciona were going to be the lab that explodes.
Yeah.
So that they have to, like, he wanted all of them to work with him.
And they were close enough together in that hallway that
It's
it
just
would
that
have been...
Sciona was like, absolutely not.
Yeah, she was like, no.
He was trying to force her hand more than anyone else's, I think.
I think so, too. Yeah, that's true.
Because he's a prick and a misogynistic ass.
He's more than a misogynist. He is, like, he's not only racist and a misogynist, but he's also, like...
He's a predator.
A predator. Yeah, like, he's preying on all of these other people that want the power that he has.
Yeah.
And he's using their work and taking credit for it.
Yeah.
For himself, and acts like... And I do think, and I think that's the thing that bugs Sciona the most, is she goes, I know he is smart enough to do it on his own.
Mm-hmm.
He's just too lazy.
Yeah.
And thinks it's easier... Which, like, honestly, in my mind, so much more work to manipulate people than it is just to do it.
I agree.
I'm also not phenomenal in social things, so that could just be me. Like, maybe if you were someone who was really good at socially navigating.
I'm really good at socially navigating. It's a lot of work and it's
great.
exhausting.
Cool. Glad it's not
I
just
would
me.
much rather just do the work myself
It's
if
so much
I
simpler.
could.
Yeah, like, if it's
much
something
rather
you
do
could,
it
yeah, if
myself.
it's something that maybe you can't, and maybe he isn't as talented, and he's just been really good, but I think Siona's perceptive enough to know
I think so.
that, like, he is intelligent and could do it on his own, and he just, like, gets pleasure out of manipulating other people.
Yeah. He likes it. And then let's also talk about this whole thing of she is participating in blasphemy, technically, with her spells that she's writing.
According to the institution that she is currently in,
Yeah.
yes. According to her, like, personal beliefs, no.
No.
But technically, which I do think is a technicality on her part a little bit. I think if Tommel would have presented it that the men of the tribe did it this way and not the women of the tribe did it, I don't think she would have even considered it.
I agree.
Or even touched it. But
I think that Tommel knows that, too.
I think so, too. I think he was being honest as well.
Yeah.
That is just the nature
Well, yeah.
of how it works, kind of thing. But, like, I think that's why he was like, well, I didn't tell you before, but that name that they called you, it's because...
Yeah.
And it also kind of makes sense why they were so... Like, I almost wonder if, like, if you were a Quinn person and you were in that bar and you learned that there's a female magic user, and that probably would feel comfortable to you. And, like, even if it's not progress for anything for your culture, it's some sort of progress that maybe would give you some sort of hope.
Yeah.
That it's a step closer to your culture being accepted than there ever has been before.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think so, too. Let's talk about Tommel and Siona's relationship.
Complicated. I also think they both view it very differently.
Tommel views Sciona as, like, this... I think he views her as, like, kind of an inspiration because of her determination, but he also views her as, like, maybe like a little sister in a lot of ways. Like, not familially.
No.
At all. But, like, in this situation that they're in, I think he views her, like, he appreciates her intelligence and her, like, way of looking at the world, even though it, like, definitely rubs him the wrong way a lot. I think he makes allowances for her because he knows that she is in an unprecedented situation, and he maybe feels a little bit of, like, protectiveness for her because he was once in an unfamiliar, unprecedented situation. And she is alone.
She is. Yeah.
Not in the same way that he was alone.
Correct, yeah.
But she is alone, and so I think, like, for him, he wants to encourage her to think and kind of break the mold a little bit because I think that he can see the good that she can do because she is in a position of power.
Yes. So I think he sees her as maybe one of the few Tirish people that might listen. And he's like, she seems to, and he, like, also...
He likes her.
He does. He also wasn't really given a choice.
No.
In any of this either. He was kind of thrust into the situation and was just like, I Like, even if he wanted to tell her no, he couldn't. Like, even if he wanted to go back to being a janitor, which I don't think he does.
I don't think he did.
But if he wanted to, he had no choice.
No.
In that fact. I do think Tamil is very socially intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
And has also lived in tier society long enough to know somewhat how to navigate in it and how to kind of stay in the good graces of those that are in power.
Yeah.
I do think he likes Sciona. I
Yeah.
don't think he, like, inviting her out for a drink and, like, doing those things. I also think there is that element of, like, in his culture, it's very much, I think, a matrilineal
Mm-hmm.
culture. And so having that type of relationship with women, I don't think is foreign to him.
No.
Even if it is foreign for Sciona.
Yeah.
And so to him, he's just like, if you accept,
yeah.
right? Like, I honestly
Yeah.
can't imagine, like, what went through his mind. I know this is a couple chapters back, but when he was like, let's go out for a drink.
Yeah.
There was so much hanging in the balance for him. Like, she
There
could have been
was.
incredibly nasty to him, or, like,
Yeah.
he put himself in a very vulnerable position
He did.
with that.
And I think that you're right. Like, he is very good socially.
Yeah.
And, like, he read the moment and was like,
Mhm.
that's what it is. Like, there's a level of respect that he gives her that has nothing to do with their actual roles in the society that they're
Yes.
in.
Mhm.
It's like a cultural respect for her because she's a woman who practices magic.
Yes, exactly.
So.
And I do think he can tell that she wants to get it right,
Mm-hmm.
even if she's
She's really bad at it.
frequently gets it wrong. She's
Yeah.
at least trying where he's not seeing other people that aren't even close to trying.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't call him the slur name that everyone
No.
else calls him. She was even like, oh, that was awful.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, which is bare minimum. Bare minimum.
It is absolutely bare minimum, but it is also different from anything else that he has.
Has seen really
Yeah.
in this culture so far. So
Yeah. Her, on the other hand, she's obsessed with him.
she likes him.
She likes him.
There's a very, which, like, fair enough, they sound real handsome.
Yeah.
In my mind, I'm just picturing, again, Tormund from Game of Thrones,
Mhm.
who is one of the most I know people disagree with me. I think he's one of the most handsome men in
I
that
do
show.
not disagree with you.
He's so handsome.
He's so handsome.
I love him. He
Yes.
is my favorite out of all of the men.
He's great.
Because the rest of them kind of suck.
Well, yeah.
But that's kind of what I'm picturing. Because they're gingers.
Yeah.
Essentially. That's what they are in this.
Mhm.
So, I get it, Sciona.
Yeah.
Like, especially if you're someone who grew up in a context where, like, most men are relatively repulsive to you,
Mhm.
and then you see this man, it's the first guy that's ever treated her relatively normally, and she's like, oh,
Yeah.
maybe that was my problem.
Again, bare minimum, but
Correct.
like in a very different way. He goes above and beyond, but like their
He does.
first interactions are like the barest minimum.
And
of-
she's just like, affection?
yeah,
That isn't, I think it's affection without expectation.
yeah.
And she's like, wait,
It's like, wait, this exists?
this exists, and, like, you're kind of handsome.
Yeah, and like, oh, those hands.
Yeah. this, so, Ashley, if you're watching this, I don't think you are, but my college roommate had an obsession with man's hands, like male hands. She
That's
would
fair.
talk about it frequently.
Mhm.
And someone that was dating another friend of ours, he did not have very delicate hands, and she called him ham hands. He was not a great person, so I don't really, like, it sounds like bullying, but if you knew the context, he deserved more.
I believe you.
But yes, so I kind of get the whole hands thing. It's never been outside the Pride and Prejudice hand flex. That would make sense to me. I'm not a big hands person necessarily, although I say that sometimes if you see the right picture, you're like, oh wait.
I'm not about the pictures. Like, again, Pride and Prejudice hand flex is just different.
Huh.
But like, I get the obsession with hands. I like a man's hands.
I do, especially like if they're like, guys know this, okay, right? Like, they can pose in a certain way where you see more of the veins, and like there's a way to do it where you're
Yeah.
like, okay,
You're like, oh, that's nice.
you're like, oh, that's a nice looking hand.
Yeah.
So like, men don't have that same thought, which is fair, because I've asked them, because I was like, is this a thing for men? And they go,
no.
hands? No? And I'm like, do you guys know this?
Yeah.
And they're like, we do learn it eventually,
Mhm.
but it's not like something that we naturally do at first.
That's so funny.
Because I was
No.
curious if they knew.
Man, it's such a thing.
No, like, especially if you pose it the right way.
Yeah.
It, like,
With the veins.
with
Ugh.
the veins, like, pop, like, which I know means you're dehydrated. I'm fully aware. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Listen, we have to, like, starve ourselves and wear, like, all sorts of uncomfortable clothing.
Yeah,
and, like,
the bare minimum you can do is
risk
be
burns
dehydrated.
when you're curling your hair.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, risk singeing your eyelashes off. And we do a lot. The least you can do is dehydrate yourself.
Dehydrate yourself so we can see all the veins.
So we can see all the veins.
It's the only thing we demand. Dehydrate yourself.
Dehydrate you. Anyway.
That should be our new podcast motto.
Oh, yeah. Anyways, that took a turn.
It did.
So yeah, he views her very respectfully. She likes him.
He does not view her in any sort of way romantically,
No.
sexually at all, and she's just like, you're pretty. Like, I don't think it's anything more than that. She just, like,
No.
has never noticed men before.
Yeah.
And she's noticing him.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And she does trust him.
Oh, yeah. Which is a big thing for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, I think it's time
For the big bad blight.
for the big bad blight. Ugh,
Yeah, it's... We all knew.
we knew.
I would assume, and you may not have. I kind of had a good sense of it. I wasn't completely shocked before.
Yeah.
Especially when they were like, it's... The moment when she was like, oh, well, we can't really see what we're pulling. It's blurry. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
That is what it is. The fact that the only way that she was able to see such a clear map is by going against, like, using the forbidden
The forbidden rules.
rules.
Yeah.
Means that the founding mages knew what they were doing.
They did. I am a little bit curious in terms of, like, if the founding mages had a clearer picture,
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if I'm assuming they probably did to fight against the Quinn, use human life, but I wonder if at first they just used, like, trees
I'm sure they did.
and animals, and then it got to the point where they were like, we ran out of trees and animals. What do we do?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, there's not enough of that as a source.
I do think so. I think it puts Androthan Stavros,
Yeah.
his whole participation in this is like the implications are huge because he created the barrier
Mm-hmm.
and they defeated the hordes. So like their annihilation of the hordes was probably sourcing them
Yeah.
to create the barrier.
Yeah.
And then so I wonder if after that they were like, we can't do that again. We should
Maybe.
only source from like plants and like animals. And then when it became clear that that wasn't going to be enough,
Functions. Mm-hmm.
then
I don't know. There is also that element of, like, we've known this amongst different cultures, but, like, or, like, even with women and why they hate on different races, depending. It's, like, if you're finally someone that's accepted within the power structure, even if it's, like a somewhat subservient section,
mm-hmm.
it's not uncommon for that person to turn on their own culture
yeah.
and just be like, well, I'm not a part of that anymore. I'm in this camp now.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, they can almost be more vicious
Mm-hmm.
in attacking the thing that they have been told and have deemed they should hate about themselves.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know. They don't really get in.
And with an E.
Yes. Yeah, there's this element where you, like, women are the most mean to other women.
Oh my God,
Like,
yeah.
we hate other women. We really do. Like,
Yeah.
we do.
We do.
It's because
It's the worst.
we're fighting for what little power that we
Mhm.
have, and we're better sometimes at it
Yeah.
than others. But I mean, there is
Yeah.
definitely, like, I think any woman will tell you, I've had way more vicious things said to me by women than I ever have by any man.
Yeah.
Also hurts more coming from women. It's a little more pointed.
It is.
Men are a little more blunt. They're
Well,
just kind of like, it's a blunt instrument versus like a targeted
Because a woman
attack.
knows how to hurt you.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not anymore. Too old.
Too old for that.
Too old and too over it. But,
Also, we now have an incredible group of women.
correct.
We
Yes.
work really hard to lift each other up.
That surround each other. Yes.
Yes.
The
But no, like back teenage years, horrifying.
Horrifying.
College, really bad.
college is the worst.
Yeah.
College is the worst for women in terms
Yeah.
of, like, coming to terms with your own body and, like, second puberty hits. I know
Yep.
people say second puberty is real. It hits in college.
Yep.
Every time, and you're like, what's happening to my body?
Yep.
Yeah, it's the worst.
It is the
I
worst.
hate all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So clearly that's what Stavros did
Yeah,
to
I think so.
his. He was a sickly child, so, and then his father was not Quen.
Yeah.
And so he it's such a parallel to Sciona and her father.
Yeah.
I just thought of that.
Oh, it probably is supposed to be a direct
Yeah,
parallel.
I think so,
Oh, that is
too.
interesting.
Where, like, so he turned on his people to prove his worthiness to his father and, like, killed his people
Actively.
to do so. And, like, Sciona is kind of a spoiler. She's going to have a hard time coming to terms with what they found out on this cliffhanger.
Which I don't think is necessarily... I mean, it is a spoiler, I guess, but, like, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, she wasn't like, oh, okay.
No. She has a hard time coming to terms with it.
She does, yeah.
But she gets there eventually.
She does.
She does.
Yeah.
And, so, like, there's not that... She's not evil, like Stavros clearly was.
No.
But everything that she's done, and I think one of the biggest reasons she has such a hard time coming to terms with it is because, like, everything that she's worked towards in order to be so good and then be able to just dismiss her father at some point in time.
Yeah.
It's all built on this, like, huge pile of evil lies.
Well, I mean, it's also the basis of her faith. And,
Yeah.
and faith is very deeply personal.
Yeah. It's her way of navigating. It's her sense of right. It's her morality.
Yeah.
It's how she makes sense of everything around her. And, like, it's just, again, it's built on a pile of evil lies.
Correct. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and, like, Tom Hill.
I love that man.
I love that man.
He's one of my
too.
favorite, like, fictional... He is what I think Rhysand wants to be. In terms of, like, good at navigating the world and having this goodness in him. I don't think he has as much pressure as Rhys does.
That's fair.
But I think that there's not a lot of selfish motivation with Tommel.
No.
It is just, life is what it is, and I'm going to make the best of what I have. Yeah, he's not a selfish person by any means.
No. And we know he lost his entire family
Yes,
because of blight.
correct.
So to see it
Outside of his niece.
outside of his niece,
Yes.
yeah. So to see it just, like, so clearly displayed.
Yeah.
I mean, he hasn't seen it for 10 years. He's been in Tiran.
Yes.
He hasn't seen it since it took his entire clan of people.
That would be burned into your brain so strongly, though. I can't imagine. I also can't imagine rewatching it and, like, confirming what you kind of already thought. Like, I know he was... I mean, we learn later he thinks about it, but, like, you know, in theory, he has to be like, this has to have something to do with this dome that for some reason magically doesn't get affected.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's gotta be something to do with
It's
it.
gotta be.
Yeah.
But, like, to, like, see it happen and to, like, be like, oh, no, it's directly the reason.
There's an element that maybe you want to deny. And you want to believe that people aren't that evil.
Yeah,
That's hard to wrap your mind around.
it is.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna see how everything unfolds, and we're gonna see the fallout of all of this.
It's just for, like, a tidbit. You would think this would be, like, the crux of the story. It's not even close.
Not even close.
Like, this is essentially the catalyst for the plot.
Yeah. Now is when the plot begins.
Yes. Yeah, which is really... Because I remember getting to this point, I was like, this is really early.
It's early, yeah.
In this book for the, like, big bad secret to be revealed. Like, typically in a structure of a book, this would be, like, 3/4 of the way in.
Yeah.
This is a quarter of the way in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's rough. It's a third of the way in.
Is it a third of the way?
Yeah.
Okay. This book moves at a lot faster pace.
It does, yeah. But yeah, we have a lot more to uncover.
Yes.
We have a lot more to go through.
Mm-hmm.
So buckle up, because as we say repeatedly, this is a wild ride of a book.
I know we said that, like, in other books a lot, but, like, it's doubly true in this one.
It is.
Like,
it is.
This book, because it's a standalone. Like,
It
there's
is.
no other, all of everything happens in one book.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which I haven't read. I used to read standalones a lot more.
I haven't recently as much.
And yeah, like, coming back to a standalone, I forgot. It's nice to have everything wrapped up in one story.
The pacing is so lovely. I like
Yeah.
a fast-paced book,
Me
which
too.
like a lot of romance novels that I read are standalone, which is nice. But, like, it's been a while since I've read, like, something that isn't specifically romance and standalone.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, This pacing is so nice.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Because, like, you don't have to wait. I
5
think a
books for a
lot.
plot
Yeah,
point.
like, I think, like, a lot of my frustration with, like, a lot of, like, the new fantasy
Yeah.
is they have, like, 4 books. And so they take 3 books to get to the point. And you're like, you didn't need 3 books
You
for
needed,
this.
like, 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Skip it
maybe
into
1
duology.
and a half.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, I'm not reading this book. I'm only reading this book at this point because I want to be proven right about what I think is going to happen.
Correct, yeah.
You know, like, that's not, it's a little bit more stressful for me to read that way.
Yeah.
Than
Yes.
to, like,
You're anticipating it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, this is definitely a fun pace. So, speaking of next episodes, our lovely dear Colleen is going to Europe.
I'm so excited.
So, we're going to be taking a break from Blood Over Brighthaven for the next couple of weeks. I'm going to do some guest star special episodes.
Very excited about it.
You have met our friend Allie before.
We love you, Allie.
We love you so much. Her and I are going to do something fun. And then I was thinking about having my mom on
Please get your mom on. I love your mom. You know this.
to talk about books. We haven't quite decided what the topics are going to be yet.
Figure it out.
But that's going to be the next couple of weeks while Colleen is traipsing around Europe.
Hopefully finding the love of my European life.
Yeah,
That is the goal.
that's the goal.
We're going to see how it works out.
We want that one bed trope.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although you are going with a group of guys.
Correct. Yes. So, honestly, what's more likely going to happen is I just, like, maybe make eye contact with someone across the room.
Yeah.
That's probably about the closest I'm going to
But
get.
we're aiming for some sort of romance.
What I'm hoping, so I'm going to France, Monaco, and then Italy. Very excited. I'm going to the Grand Prix. Maybe one of the racers could magically see me in the crowd of thousands.
Yeah.
And fall in love with me. You never know. Could happen.
I'm rooting for it.
Crazier things have happened.
Crazier things have happened.
Most of them are in relationships. It's fine. Not all of them. I already know which ones aren't. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Crazier things have happened.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, fangirl's got to be delusional.
What I'm hoping for is that when you're in Lake Como,
Oh.
you're going to meet a wonderfully handsome, fantastic, like,
Villa owner?
yeah, who's like an American,
Oh, yeah.
like, vacations in Lake Como type of thing.
Oh, that would be nice.
Because
yeah.
I love you, so you can't move to Europe without me.
If I'm rich enough, you can move with me.
Listen, that's the only way it's allowed.
If honestly, if they can afford a house on Como, we'll be fine.
Yeah, you're right.
We'll be fine.
We'll be fine.
I will be, so when going to Lake Como, that's one of the places we're staying in Italy, is actually, that's really the only place. We're going to be in Milan for a little while. But apparently that's where George Clooney lives.
Yes.
And I only know this because one of the guy friends I went with, we were talking about, like, oh, we should stay here. He goes, that's where George Clooney is. We should look
You
for him.
didn't know that?
No. I'm not a big George Clooney person.
I love George Clooney.
So I love them all. Like,
I mean, I love them all, too.
I think Amal is cooler.
Amal Clooney is amazing.
I would be more excited, genuinely would be more excited to meet her than George Clooney.
I would be more
But-
intimidated to meet her than George Clooney.
No, exactly. Yeah, I could actually talk to George. Which,
Yeah.
If I'm picking a Clooney, Rosemary Clooney, his aunt, is my favorite. She's great. I'm obsessed with White Christmas. I don't
She
think
is
I need
great.
to tell him that. I don't think he would take that super well.
No.
He did love his aunt,
I mean,
though,
I
but
don't think he would take it poorly.
He would just be like, okay.
Like, okay, cool.
I don't know how to talk to people anyway, so if I met a famous person, I think I would just be in complete shock. So it's probably going to have to be someone that I don't actively know.
Yeah.
But-
Anyways, I am hoping that I'm hoping that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
For me personally, selfishly, that would be great.
Very fair. Yeah. I mean, if we want that delusional level of wealth, we will probably need to find it at Monaco.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
But, which is less likely because I'm only spending like a day there.
Yeah.
But,
Listen, I'll take South of France too.
oh, just live in Nice.
Yeah.
Just that. We're staying in Nice. Yeah, we cannot afford Monaco. But we're just casually staying in the south of France. You
Yeah.
know, no big deal.
So while she's off having her wonderful adventures, which I'm very excited for, there's also another trope that could happen while she's on her European trip.
Yeah, but
We're not going to talk about that because that doesn't play into my plans for my future dependent upon Colleen.
I actually
So-
do have a story about that later.
Okay, great. So while she's off having her wonderful adventures, I'm going to be holding it down here, talking about books and stuff with some lovely guest stars. I have requested that Colleen do like a vlog while she's in Europe.
I would love to, actually.
So that
It'd
we
be
can
fun.
post some of it.
Yes.
I think that would be really fun.
Honestly, depending, I might be able to post while I'm there. It'll be like in the middle of the night for here.
Yeah, that's
but
fine.
I might be able to
Post on Book Witches.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
It'll give me a delusional reason to force my friends. Not force. They will very politely record and do whatever I need, but asking them
yeah.
to do it feels so uncomfortable.
Why?
I don't know. I don't like taking videos of myself and doing this podcast very much stretched me when we started. Like, I'm fine now and I'm more used to it, but like not in public as much.
Yeah.
I don't have the same, like, I'm just gonna pretend I have saved some things for poses to help myself.
Good.
So we're gonna get there. But
I looked up a couple of poses and I just used them. The foot in front.
the foot in front, there is this, so speaking of, I'm upset, so the shirt I'm wearing it looks insane, but it's literally a McLaren Monaco shirt, the back of it is incredible, but one of the driver's girlfriends, not for McLaren, for Ferrari, is like known for this mirror selfie pose, and I'm like, I'm gonna figure out how to do this in Monaco, because I have some really cute outfits
I believe in
that
you.
I am determined, and like I saw a thing today, they were like, the power of this pose, and I'm like, I'm gonna learn.
I believe in you.
I'm gonna figure it out.
You're gonna do it.
So, we're gonna see.
I'll probably have Jeannie on the podcast while you're gone too.
As you absolutely should.
Jeannie being my puppet girl.
A whole podcast of Jeannie.
Yeah, just Jeannie being Jeannie. Jeannie being like, I love you, I'm gonna bite your face.
Yeah.
So, I love you too, girly, but don't bite my face, please.
It's aggressive love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is aggressive love.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I guess we can wrap it up.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So we will be back
In a couple weeks.
in June, probably.
Yeah, I won't be getting back till June.
Yeah.
So
we'll be back in June,
Yeah.
and I will see you guys with some fun special episodes coming up.
bye.
Bye.
Apologies for the bugs.
That's okay.
We got some weird dirt that's got a lot of bugs.
Yeah, it happens.
Injects it out.